The quantum resonance alarm shrieked through the U.S. Defiance's aging command deck, a sound so rare that most of the crew initially thought it was another system glitch. Captain Elena Rodriguez knew better. In 13 years of deep space exploration, she had learned that unexpected signals rarely meant anything good. Full spectrum analysis. Now, she barked, her voice cutting through the momentary confusion. Lieutenant Kai Chen's fingers flew across the holographic interface, layers of data cascading like liquid light around his workstation. The ship itself seemed to hold its breath, a living thing cobbled together from experimental technologies that most military strategists had long since written off as a lost cause. The Defiance was humanity's forgotten child. Designed as a long-range exploration vessel with more jury-rigged systems than standard military-grade equipment, it represented the last gasp of a spacefaring program perpetually on the brink of total defunding. Its crew was equally mismatched, a collection of brilliant misfits, technological outcasts, and individuals who had found themselves at the ragged edge of human exploration. Captain Kai's voice carried an edge of something between excitement and terror. This isn't a standard distress signal. It's something else entirely. The main view screen flickered to life, resolving from static into a horrific tableau. Fragments of massive spacecraft drifted like wounded leviathans against a backdrop of stellar darkness. Geometric structures, clearly artificial, were reduced to twisted metal and frozen plasma. But it was the transmission's content that froze the blood of everyone on the bridge. Holographic recordings played in brutal succession. Massive ships, their design both beautiful and terrifying in its alien geometry, systematically dismantled entire planetary defense networks. Beings that might have once been intelligent life forms were herded like cattle, their final moments captured in excruciating detail. No mercy, no negotiation, pure, calculated extinction. Dr. Amara Okoro, the ship's xenobiological specialist, leaned forward. Her dark skin contrasted sharply with the pale blue holographic light. Zarkon Imperial hegemony, she whispered, a statement rather than a question. They're not just conquering. They're performing systematic genocide. Rodriguez's mind raced. The Defiance carried experimental quantum communication disruptors, stealth systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics, and a crew that had been repeatedly told they were obsolete. But obsolete didn't mean ineffective. Run a full spectral analysis on those ship designs, she commanded. I want to know everything. Energy signatures, material composition, potential weaknesses. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez, no relation to the captain, despite sharing a last name, began feeding complex algorithmic patterns into the ship's neural network. The Defiance's computer was another experimental system, an adaptive quantum AI that learned and modified itself with each new piece of information. Multiple species involved in this massacre, Marcus reported. Preliminary analysis suggests at least 7 distinct civilization types. The Zarkon aren't just conquering. They're systematically eliminating any potential future resistance. The ship's chief engineer, a compact woman named Yuki Tanaka, suddenly interjected. Those energy signatures, they're not just weapons. They're some kind of total systemic suppression technology. Look how precisely they're dismantling entire planetary defense networks. Captain Rodriguez felt something burning in her chest. It wasn't fear. It was a fundamental rejection of the horror playing out before them. Humanity had its own dark history of conflict, but this was something else entirely, a level of calculated brutality that went beyond mere conquest. We're going to do something, she said quietly. The bridge went silent. It wasn't a question or a suggestion. It was a declaration of intent. The Defiance's experimental quantum drive hummed, responding to her words as if it understood the magnitude of the moment. Outside the ship's reinforced hull, the infinite darkness of space seemed to pulse with potential energy. They were one ship, one crew, and they had just discovered a war that would determine the fate of countless civilizations. Some battles are won with weapons, some with technology, But the most important battles are won with something far more fundamental: the refusal to accept the unacceptable. The hunt was about to begin. The asteroid field was a graveyard of shattered hopes. Massive chunks of rock and metallic debris created a labyrinth that would have crushed any conventional navigation system. But the Defiance was anything but conventional. Quantum resonance mapping at maximum. Yuki Tanaka called out, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface that seemed to breathe with living data. We're threading the needle between quantum probability and raw spatial mechanics. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the impossible unfold. The ship moved like liquid thought, sliding between massive asteroid fragments that should have torn through their hull in milliseconds. Each movement was a calculated risk, a dance of probability that defied traditional understanding of space navigation. A faint signal pulsed through the debris, so weak that any standard system would have missed it completely. But the Defiance's experimental quantum receivers caught the transmission like a desperate whisper. Movement detected, Lieutenant Kai Chen reported. Multiple biosignatures. Minimal life support. They're hiding. Dr. Amara Okoro leaned forward, her xenobiological scanners working overtime. Not just hiding. Surviving. Barely. The first visual contact came as a shock. Beings that defied easy classification emerged from a hollowed-out asteroid fragment. They were clearly not human. A collection of crystalline structures that seemed to shift and breathe, with appendages that merge organic and technological elements in ways that human science had never conceived. Erlan, Dr. Okoro whispered. The civilization we saw in the transmission. They're not completely gone. The ship's communication systems came alive with a transmission that was part language, part mathematical equation, part pure emotional resonance. It was a communication method so complex that only the Defiance's experimental quantum translator could even begin to parse it. Marcus Rodriguez's hands flew across his console. Translating. It's not just a language. It's a complete informational ecosystem. Fragments of their story emerge. The Erlan were not simply a civilization. They were a collective consciousness that had spread across multiple star systems. The Zarkon hadn't just attacked them. They had launched a systematic dismantling of their entire quantum informational network. They're watching us, Captain Rodriguez realized. Not just with eyes or sensors. They're analyzing every quantum probability of our interaction. A proximity alarm screamed. The asteroid field erupted with energy signatures that could only mean one thing. Zarkon hunter-killer squadrons. 3 squadrons, Marcus reported. Minimum. Possibly more hidden in quantum shadow states. The Defiance's experimental quantum camouflage wasn't just a stealth system. It was a living algorithm that could manipulate local spacetime, bending probability itself. But even that might not be enough against the technological might of the Zarkon. Yuki's voice cut through the tension. Quantum diffraction array is primed. We can bend their targeting systems, but only for a short window. Captain Rodriguez made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Full quantum disruption protocol. We're not just hiding. We're going to hit them where they least expect. The next moments were a symphony of impossible physics. The Defiance seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Here, not here, potentially here. Zarkon targeting systems went haywire, their precise computational matrices suddenly unable to resolve the human ship's actual position. But it wasn't just about survival. As the Defiance moved, it was collecting data. Every quantum fluctuation, every energy signature, every minute detail of Zarkon technology was being analyzed, cataloged, understood. The Erlan survivors watched in what could only be described as collective astonishment. These humans weren't just fighting. They were learning, adapting, turning the very fabric of space into a weapon. When the engagement ended, 3 Zarkon squadrons had been reduced to expanding clouds of plasma and fractured quantum data. The Defiance emerged virtually unscathed, with a cargo hold now containing survivors who represented the last remnants of a civilization. Captain Rodriguez looked at the crystalline beings now aboard her ship. "We're going to help you," she said. Not a promise. A statement of absolute fact. The hunt was no longer just beginning. It had transformed into something far more dangerous. A quantum war where the rules of engagement were about to be completely rewritten. The makeshift laboratory buried deep within the Defiance's core was nothing like a traditional research space. Holographic interfaces twisted and morphed around Dr. Marcus Chen, creating a three-dimensional computational landscape that defied conventional understanding. Airland survivors moved around him, not walking, but shifting through quantum states that human perception could barely comprehend. "It's not just a communication network," Chen muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "It's a living system. A computational organism that thinks across multiple dimensional planes." The Airland representative, if representative, could even describe such a being, pulsed with crystalline energy. Its form was less a body and more a complex mathematical equation given temporary physical manifestation. When it communicated, the entire ship seemed to vibrate with informational resonance. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched from the threshold, understanding that what was happening was far more than a simple technological analysis. This was first contact in its most profound sense, an exchange of fundamental understanding that went beyond language, beyond technology. Yuki Tanaka approached, her augmented neural interface crackling with suppressed excitement. "The quantum signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The Zarkon network isn't just a communication system. It's a control mechanism that operates on principles we've barely begun to understand." The captured Zarkon technology lay dissected across multiple holographic planes. Each fragment told a story of technological evolution, so advanced it bordered on biological complexity. But complexity, the crew was learning, wasn't always a strength. It could also be a fundamental weakness. Their centralized network, Chen explained, pulling up intricate holographic models, is simultaneously their greatest strength and their most critical vulnerability. It's so interconnected that a sufficiently complex disruption could cause a total systemic collapse. The plan began to take shape, not as a military strategy, but as a form of informational warfare that would challenge the very foundations of the Zarkon's technological supremacy. Commander Marcus Rodriguez, the ship's tactical specialist, approached with a series of probability matrices. "We're looking at a computational attack that would make our historical cyber warfare look like children's mathematics. We're not just trying to break their network. We're attempting to introduce a form of computational cancer that will consume their entire system." The Airland survivor, which the crew had begun to call Prism, began to interact with the holographic displays. Its method of communication was less about words and more about direct informational transfer. Entire computational models would shift and transform with a mere quantum resonance. "They believe we're primitive," Prism communicated, the message translating through layers of quantum algorithms. The Zarkon see technological complexity as a measure of evolutionary success. They do not understand that true innovation comes from adaptability, not rigid perfection. Captain Rodriguez understood the deeper meaning. The Zarkon's technological supremacy was built on a fundamental misunderstanding of evolution. They saw technology as a fixed state of achievement, while humanity, and the Airland, understood it as a constant state of adaptation. Yuki's neural interface suddenly sparked with an impossible revelation. The quantum disruption algorithm, it can't just be a weapon. It needs to be a living system, something that can learn, adapt, and spread like an intelligent virus. Dr. Chen's eyes gleamed with a mixture of scientific excitement and something darker. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. This was about challenging a fundamental galactic paradigm of technological dominance. "We'll need to use the Defiance itself as the primary vector," he explained. "Our ship becomes more than a vessel. It becomes the delivery mechanism for a computational revolution." The plan was audacious, impossible, and precisely the kind of strategy that no conventional military mind would ever conceive. They would transform the Defiance into a quantum Trojan horse, a ship that would not just infiltrate the Zarkon network, but fundamentally rewrite its entire operational methodology. Outside the ship, the universe waited. Countless civilizations crushed under the Zarkon's technological heel held their collective breath, unknowing that their potential salvation was being crafted in this impossible laboratory by a crew that represented humanity's most unpredictable potential. The computational weapon was taking shape, and with it, the first true challenge to the Zarkon's galactic dominance was about to be unleashed. Silence hung in the Defiance's bridge like a razor's edge. The ship had become something more than a vessel. It was now a living weapon. Every system recalibrated into a single complex organism designed to wage a war unlike any in galactic history. Lieutenant Kai Chen's fingers danced across interfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with their own consciousness. "First detection grid approaching," he announced. "Zarkon long-range sensors are going to start probing our quantum signature in approximately 3 minutes." Captain Alina Rodriguez felt more than heard the subtle shift in the ship's internal resonance. The airline survivor, Prism, had integrated itself into the ship's core systems, transforming the Defiance's experimental quantum AI into something entirely unprecedented. It wasn't just a technological enhancement. It was a fundamental reimagining of what a spaceship could be. "Prepare quantum diffraction protocol," she commanded. The words were almost unnecessary. The ship was already anticipating, systems shifting and adapting faster than human comprehension could track. Outside, the void of space became a complex battlefield of invisible waves and probabilistic interactions. The Defiance didn't just move. It existed in multiple potential states simultaneously, a quantum ghost that defied traditional tracking methods. Dr. Amara Okoro monitored the biological-technological interface. The captured Zarkon technology they had integrated was fighting against the ship's systems, a war happening at a microscopic level, with entire computational ecosystems battling for dominance. "They're sending scout drones," Marcus Rodriguez reported. His tactical display showed not just ships, but complex probability matrices, potential attack vectors that shifted and transformed with each passing millisecond. But these aren't standard reconnaissance units. They're quantum entanglement probes designed to map our entire computational ecosystem. Yuki Tanaka's laugh was equal parts excitement and dark anticipation. "Let them try." The first wave of Zarkon scouts approached, sleek vessels that looked more like living creatures than technological constructs. Their approach was a mathematical ballet of precision, each movement calculated to absolute perfection. Perfection, the Defiance was about to demonstrate, was a weakness. As the scouts began their probing sequence, the ship's experimental systems came alive. It wasn't just about avoiding detection. It was about creating a computational nightmare that would send shockwaves through the entire Zarkon network. Each quantum probe that touched the Defiance's outer systems found not a simple vessel, but a living computational maze. Information twisted and transformed. Tracking signals were reflected back in ways that defied logical analysis. It was as if the ship was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, a phantom that rewrote the fundamental rules of spatial detection. "Computational reflection at 89% efficiency," Kai reported. "They're sending more complex analysis units. Each probe we deflect is teaching them nothing but confusion." Prism's quantum consciousness pulsed through the ship's systems. The airline survivor wasn't just helping. It was learning, adapting, turning the Defiance into a living weapon of informational warfare. The Zarkon scouts began to malfunction. Not dramatically, but in ways that would send cascading uncertainty through their entire detection network. A slight miscalculation here, a quantum probability shift there. Each interaction was a tiny seed of computational doubt. "They're going to escalate," Captain Rodriguez said quietly. It wasn't a prediction. It was a statement of absolute certainty. The next wave would be different. The Zarkon didn't just fight. They analyzed. They learned. And they were about to bring everything they had. Marcus Rodriguez's tactical display began to light up with incoming signatures. Multiple hunter-killer squadrons incoming. They're shifting from detection to direct engagement. But the Defiance was ready. More than ready. What was about to happen wasn't just a battle. It was a fundamental challenge to the Zarkon's understanding of technological warfare. The void of space held its breath. The hunt was about to become a war. The quantum laboratory had become a crucible of impossible mathematics. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at its center, surrounded by holographic projections that twisted reality itself. Streams of data moved like living things, cascading through dimensional spaces that human minds could barely comprehend. "It's not just a virus," Chen muttered, his eyes reflecting complex algorithmic patterns. "It's a sentient computational ecosystem." The algorithm he was developing was more than a weapon. It was a form of digital life. A complex system designed to not just infiltrate the Zarkon network, but to fundamentally challenge its entire operational philosophy. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched from the threshold, understanding the weight of what was happening. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about challenging a fundamental galactic paradigm of technological dominance. Memories flickered through Chen's mind. The countless civilizations they had seen reduced to digital dust. The systematic destruction captured in the initial transmission. Each line of code became an act of defiance, a mathematical middle finger to an empire built on technological oppression. The core challenge, he explained to the assembled crew, is creating a computational entity that can survive in a completely alien technological ecosystem. It needs to be adaptive, unpredictable, and capable of rapid self-modification. Yuki Tanaka approached, her neural interface crackling with suppressed excitement. "We're essentially creating a digital organism, something that can learn, adapt, and propagate faster than the Zarkon can comprehend." The airland survivor, Prism, pulsed with crystalline energy, its entire being becoming part of the computational process. Communication happened not through words, but through direct informational transfer. Entire computational models would shift and transform with a mere quantum resonance. Survival is not about strength. Prism communicated, the message translating through layers of quantum algorithms. It is about the capacity to change faster than your environment can respond. Each crew member carried their own motivation. For some, it was revenge. For others, a fundamental belief in the right of civilizations to exist. But they were united by something deeper. A rejection of the systematic destruction they had witnessed. "Lieutenant Kai," Chen's voice cut through the tension. "Quantum entanglement matrix is reaching critical stability. We're talking about a computational weapon that can replicate and adapt faster than any known system in the galaxy." The algorithm took shape, not as a linear piece of code, but as a three-dimensional computational landscape. It was alive in a way that defied traditional understanding of technology. Each line of code was a potential pathway, each algorithm a living branch that could grow, mutate, and survive. "We're going to need a delivery mechanism," Marcus Rodriguez noted, his tactical mind already 3 steps ahead. "Something that can penetrate the most secure computational networks in the known galaxy." Captain Rodriguez understood the unspoken implication. The Defiance itself would be the primary vector. They were transforming the ship from a vessel of exploration into a weapon of ultimate digital revolution. Dr. Amara Okoro brought up a holographic model of previous civilizations crushed by the Zarkon. "Every line of code represents a civilization that was silenced," she said quietly. "Every algorithm is a chance to give them a voice." The computational weapon was becoming something more than a mere technological tool. It was an act of galactic rebellion, a mathematical manifesto of resistance. "Total integration complete," Kai Chen announced. The ship seemed to vibrate with potential energy, every system now aligned toward a single impossible goal. Prism's consciousness expanded, interfacing directly with the algorithm. The boundary between ship, crew, and weapon began to blur, becoming something entirely new. "We are ready," the collective consciousness communicated. Not a question, not a statement, a fundamental truth. Outside the ship, the universe waited. Countless civilizations crushed under the Zarkon's technological heel held their collective breath, unknowing that their potential salvation was taking shape in this impossible laboratory. The weapon was complete, and with it, humanity was about to rewrite the fundamental rules of galactic conflict. The capture was almost too easy. Almost. Captain Elena Rodriguez knew that in the universe of interstellar warfare, nothing was ever truly simple. The Zarkon believed they were pulling the Defiance into their most secure communication hub, a massive orbital installation that looked like a crystalline brain suspended in the void of space. What they didn't realize was that every moment of the capture was a carefully orchestrated dance of deception. Structural integrity at minimum acceptable levels. Yuki Tanaka reported, her voice calm despite the razor's edge they were walking. The ship's external systems had been deliberately degraded, making the Defiance appear like a wounded prey, exactly what the Zarkon would expect from a technologically inferior species. As massive energy clamps locked onto the ship, the crew moved with a precision that bordered on choreography. Each movement was calculated, each system prepared for the moment of truth. Dr. Marcus Chen's fingers danced across interfaces that seemed to breathe with their own consciousness. "First stage quantum infiltration beginning," he muttered. "We're no longer just a ship, we're a living computational probe." The Zarkon installation was a marvel of technological achievement. Massive data conduits pulsed with light that wasn't quite light, information moving at speeds that would shatter human comprehension. Geometric structures twisted through multiple dimensional planes, a testament to a civilization that had long since transcended traditional understanding of technology. But technology, the crew knew, was always a double-edged sword. Preliminary scans complete, Lieutenant Kai Chen reported. Their network is so interconnected that it's essentially a single massive organism. Every system is talking to every other system in real time. What the Zarkon didn't understand was that interconnectedness was also a fundamental weakness. Prism, the airline survivor, had become more than just a passenger. Its crystalline consciousness was now fully integrated with the Defiance's systems, creating a hybrid intelligence that defied traditional understanding. When it communicated, the entire ship seemed to resonate with a frequency that was part mathematical equation, part pure intention. Their strength is their greatest vulnerability, Prism communicated. The message wasn't just words. It was a complete informational ecosystem that translated across multiple layers of understanding. Marcus Rodriguez's tactical display showed something miraculous. As the Defiance was pulled deeper into the Zarkon installation, they were simultaneously mapping, analyzing, and subtly infecting every system they touched. It wasn't an invasion. It was a form of computational osmosis. "They're treating us like a specimen," Dr. Amara Okoro observed, her xenobiological scanners working overtime. Classic predator response. Capture, contain, analyze. The irony was delicious. The Zarkon were so confident in their technological superiority that they couldn't conceive of a threat that didn't conform to their understanding of warfare. Deep within the installation's core systems, the quantum weapon began its true work. Not with the drama of an explosion, but with the subtle precision of a surgeon. Each line of code was a tiny needle, each algorithm a precise incision into the fabric of the Zarkon's computational reality. Infiltration at 37% and accelerating, Kai Chen reported. They won't even realize what's happening until it's too late. Captain Rodriguez watched the holographic displays, understanding the true nature of their mission. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about challenging a fundamental galactic paradigm of technological domination. The Zarkon believed in absolute control, in perfect systems, in the idea that technology could be a mechanism of total subjugation. Humanity was about to prove them catastrophically wrong. Final stage of infiltration initiated, Marcus Chen announced. The words hung in the air, less a statement and more a declaration of war. Outside the ship, inside the ship, between the quantum spaces, everything was about to change. The most sophisticated communication network in the known galaxy was about to meet an enemy it could never have anticipated. A single ship, a crew deemed obsolete, and a computational weapon that was about to rewrite the rules of galactic conflict. The collapse began not with a roar, but with a whisper. Across thousands of star systems, Zarkon communication nodes started to stutter. It wasn't a dramatic shutdown, more like a gradual unraveling of reality. Massive fleet coordination systems began to drift, military protocols twisted into nonsensical patterns, and the iron-tight control that had subjugated hundreds of civilizations started to dissolve. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Elena Rodriguez watched holographic displays that mapped the spreading computational infection. It wasn't just a virus. It was a living algorithm that understood and exploited the very essence of the Zarkon's technological philosophy. Systemic degradation at 42%, Lieutenant Kai Chen reported, his voice a mixture of scientific fascination and barely contained excitement. They're losing cohesion faster than their systems can compensate. The quantum weapon developed by Dr. Marcus Chen was performing beyond their wildest expectations. Where traditional computational attacks might create temporary disruptions, this was a complete systemic deconstruction. The algorithm didn't just break systems. It understood them, learned from them, and then systematically dismantled their fundamental operational logic. Dr. Amara Okoro tracked the broader implications. Look, she pointed to a display showing multiple star systems. The subjugated civilizations are beginning to realize their oppressors are vulnerable. Worlds that had been under Zarkon control for generations suddenly found their communication suppression fields failing. Resistance networks that had been dormant for decades began to activate. It was like watching a massive dam of oppression slowly crumble. Yuki Tanaka's neural interface crackled with intense computational feedback. "The weapon is evolving," she muttered. "It's not just attacking. It's learning, adapting." Prism, the airline survivor, pulsed with an energy that seemed to resonate with the unfolding chaos. Its crystalline consciousness was deeply interfaced with the computational attack, providing insights that no human system could comprehend. Technological supremacy is an illusion. Prism communicated, the message translating through layers of quantum algorithms. True strength lies in the capacity to change, to understand, to evolve. The Zarkon response was predictable and ultimately futile. They attempted to isolate infected systems, to create computational firewalls. But the weapon developed by the Defiance's crew was something entirely new. An intelligent, adaptive entity that understood its host better than the host understood itself. Marcus Rodriguez tracked the tactical implications. "They're losing fleet coordination," he reported. "Entire battle groups are going dark. Their centralized command structure is collapsing." What made the attack truly devastating was its precision. The quantum weapon didn't just destroy. It exposed. Classified communication networks were laid bare. Military strategies were revealed. The fundamental lies that had maintained the Zarkon's galactic dominance were suddenly visible to every civilization they had oppressed. Systemic collapse at 73%, Kai Chen announced. The number was more than a statistic. It was the sound of a galactic empire crumbling. Captain Rodriguez understood the weight of what was happening. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a fundamental reimagining of technological warfare. The Zarkon had believed in absolute control, in the idea that technology could be a mechanism of total subjugation. Humanity was proving them catastrophically wrong. Across thousands of star systems, subjugated civilizations began to rise. Communication networks that had been suppressed for generations suddenly hummed with potential. Resistance movements that had existed in whispers now roared to life. The Defiance itself was transforming. No longer just a ship, it had become something more. A living weapon, a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of adaptive intelligence. Final stage of systemic deconstruction initiating, Marcus Chen reported. The words hung in the air, less a statement and more a declaration of a new galactic order. Outside the ship, inside the quantum spaces between reality, everything was changing. The most sophisticated oppression network in the known galaxy was being dismantled, not by brute force, but by a fundamental understanding of the nature of control. A single ship, a crew deemed obsolete, and a computational weapon that was rewriting the rules of existence itself. Silence descended like a final judgment. The Defiance hung suspended in space, its systems pushed beyond the limits of human and alien engineering. Captain Elena Rodriguez looked around the bridge, not with sadness, but with a profound sense of completion. "We're not coming back from this," she said quietly. It wasn't a moment of defeat, but of absolute acceptance. The computational weapon had done more than destroy the Zarkon Empire. It had rewritten the fundamental understanding of technological warfare, of resistance, of what it meant to be truly alive in the vastness of the universe. Dr. Amara Okoro's final medical scans showed the true cost of their mission. Every crew member's system was so deeply integrated with the ship, so fundamentally transformed by their journey, that separation was no longer possible. They had become something more than human, a hybrid of biological intention and computational possibility. Transmission records are being distributed to every liberated civilization, Lieutenant Kai Chen reported. His voice was different now, less human, more something else entirely. Our entire mission, every moment, every calculation. The Airland Survivor, Prism, had become fully integrated with the ship's core systems. Its crystalline consciousness pulsed with a final message that transcended language. A complete transfer of knowledge, of resistance, of hope. Marcus Rodriguez tracked the immediate aftermath. Hundreds of civilizations were rising from generations of oppression. Communication networks that had been brutally suppressed were now open. The fundamental power structures that had dominated galactic politics for millennia were crumbling. Yuki Tanaka's neural interface was no longer just a technological connection. It had become a living bridge between biological consciousness and computational possibility. "We're not dying," she said, her words a revelation. "We're becoming something new." The ship itself was transforming. External sensors showed a metamorphosis that defied traditional understanding, organic and technological systems merging, creating something that was neither machine nor living organism, but a completely new form of existence. Dr. Marcus Chen's final computational analysis painted a stunning picture. The weapon they had created was more than a means of destruction. It was a seed of liberation, an intelligent system designed to help subjugated civilizations rebuild, to understand their own potential. "Transmission complete," Kai Chen announced. The words meant something more than a simple communication. It was the final act of a mission that would reshape galactic civilization. Captain Rodriguez looked at her crew, no, her family. They had known from the beginning that this was a one-way journey. Every calculation, every moment of planning, had been leading to this ultimate sacrifice. The Defiance began to break apart, but not in the way of traditional destruction. It was more like a chrysalis opening, releasing something entirely new into the universe. Streams of data, of consciousness, of pure potential began to spread across multiple star systems. Their final transmission was both a warning and a promise to the liberated civilizations. Freedom is not given. It is taken. It is fought for. It is created. Outside, the universe seemed to pause. Countless civilizations looked up at their skies, feeling something fundamental had changed. The oppressive silence that had dominated galactic politics for millennia was broken. The Zarkon Empire was gone. But something far more important had been born. In the vast darkness between stars, a new possibility emerged, a testament to the power of a single ship, a single crew, a single moment of absolute defiance. The transmission faded, the ship dissolved, but the message continued to spread. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.